Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind-A-Dynamite. This is our AEW Dynamite post show here to talk about Fyter Fest Week 2. John Pollock, of course, is on vacation, so we are having a bit of a rotating roster of guest hosts here. And I'm very pleased to announce for the first time on one of these Rewind shows from the Nubian Wrestling Advocates. You know him as the Professor. You know him as Moderna Kris. You know him as Kris from LA. It is Kris Ealy. Welcome to the show, Kris.
Hey, Wade, thanks for having me, man. I'm actually glad that you asked me to review a show that I actually like, because I often when I'm like for other networks, they always ask me to review like Raw or SmackDown, and I hate those shows. This show was decent tonight, so I'm cool. And I'm glad to be in post, a place that's free of politics and religion and all that. So
we always try to make a safe space here, something that is here for everybody. Okay, no controversies
right.
On this side of the podcasting world. But I'm very happy to have you here, Kris. And you know, you're a man, obviously, of many opinions. You're arguably a breakout star of the Nubian Wrestling Advocates. Somebody who's recently been doing some writing work over at WrestleNomics as well. So you're somebody with an opinion I very much respect. Have not had a chance to even personally speak to you about your thoughts on AEW. So I'm going to look forward to this one. And this seemed to be a pretty big show to talk about. But first of all, some plugs for what's coming up later this week. Of course, right now we have our latest editions of MCU Later talking about Thor, Love and Thunder. We've got our G1 coverage that's covering everything all the way up until today, which is day 3, which was a stinker of a G1. And if that does not necessarily sound enticing, hopefully you maybe hearing somebody complain about the G1 might be up your alley. If not, skip this one, simply listen to us, or just skip it entirely, because we will be back on Sunday with me and John covering the weekend shows. But that is not until later on Saturday. We have our Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor review with me and Kate from Montreal in the Post Wrestling Cafe exclusively for patrons. The Wellness Policy comes out tomorrow live at 3 p.m. Eastern for everybody. I'll be dropping a link out there. If you follow me at Way0937, we'll be talking about Jordan Goodman's Bummer Summer. And if you want to find out what that is, well, tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern time at postwrestlingcafe.com. Also, Rewind to SmackDown and Rampage, and then Saturday it is the return of the Nubian Wrestling Advocates. But more on all of that a little bit later. We are here to talk about AEW Fyter Fest Week 2, night number 3. Kris, are you somebody who's been keeping up every single week with the AEW product? How much exactly do you watch?
Oh yeah, I watch AEW religiously. That's the one show that I do watch live every week, and even Rampage, because out here it comes on early, so I still have time to watch it at I think it's 7 p.m. on the West Coast, and then me and my girlfriend could go out and do our date night thing. So she's happy, I'm happy, and yeah, I like the thing I love the most about AEW is even if the show isn't great, it never feels like a chore to watch, if that makes sense. You know, it just feels like, okay, that wasn't a good show, but I think it might be going somewhere next week. So
I can safely say there is never a shortage of something to talk about coming off of Dynamite. In fact, maybe part of the issue is that there's almost too much to talk about because they load these shows, and today was certainly the case because so much more respect. I mean, I have all the respect in the world already for John, but taking like the play-by-play notes for this thing, God damn, it is a lot of work. So
yeah, and I took some notes too. So hopefully, you know, between the two of us, because it was a lot. It was a lot to catch, and it's like if you go to the bathroom, you miss something, right? There's no downtime.
You got to install a TV in the bathroom, okay? If you
Right.
want to be covering Rampage while trying to attempt to live any sort of human life here.
Right.
But here we are. Let's get into it, Kris. Fyter Fest Week 2. This is in promotion really for Shark Week on Discovery. Here we have a big Shark Week banners all around the apron and the barricade. So really a bit of a title sponsor here for AEW. And we start things off. Darby Allin versus Brody King. It starts off incredibly hot here with Darby Allin delivering a big tope suicida right off the bat. Brody withstands the barrage and just, pretty much sets up a big underdog babyface performance from Darby Allin here. The crowd is already so loud. Brody slows the pace. He's beating on Darby. The commercial break is all Darby selling, with Brody pretty much ragdolling him around. Back on the floor, Darby takes off his belt and uses it to tie Brody's legs together, tripping him onto the floor and setting up for another big tope suicida. Darby is caught in the tree of woe back in the ring, and Brody is just killing him with these giant chops. Brody, I thought, looked great in this.
Right.
To me, like, this was his best TV performance to date, better than how he came across against Mox. And much of that is the, big man, little man dynamic that they set up here. Darby exposes the turnbuckle, pulls Brody into it, drawing a little bit of blood, it seemed. Goes for the stunner, but Brody counters with the sleeper, hanging Darby off the apron like he used to eliminate him from that battle royal. We get a count of 9, but Darby makes it back into the ring. However, he walks right into a gonzo bomb, and Brody King beats Darby Allin here. Very clean, very dominant. I thought a tremendous opener, Kris.
Oh yeah, I love this opener. The one thing I love about Darby Allin is his ability to fight from underneath. Any match that I see him in with a guy that's 2-3 times his size, he doesn't get offense in by like bossing up to him. He kind of sneaks it in and gets lucky, like in a real fight with with these two. And it seems like they're serious about Brody King, and I don't think a loss hurts Darby Allin at all. I think Darby Allin's one of those guys who is an underdog, so you expect him to lose sometimes. And I think Brody King looked very good, like you said.
I thought this was like a really great follow-up to, like a string of spotlight appearances from Brody King between the Battle Royal to the Moxley match. I thought this one was the one that probably cemented him the most, in my opinion. It was, like I said, his most impressive performance to date. Brody King like owes Darby Allin, I don't know, some new wheels for his skateboard or something, because that man did him a huge favor. He made Brody look incredible.
Yes.
And a great crowd off the top here as well.
This Atlanta crowd was hype, man. And I've been to shows in Atlanta. Like for me and Nate, it was born in Atlanta. Atlanta is like a second home for me. It's my second favorite city in the United States of America, in one of my least favorite states in the country. So, but yeah, this crowd was, I love this crowd tonight, man. I thought they really made the show for me.
They were incredibly hot. Post-match here, we got Brody King. He's continuing to beat on Darby Allin, but out comes Sting. He's about to hit the death drop to Brody, but then the lights go out, and here comes Malachi Black. He comes in here, and he missed Sting, and out comes, with aviator shades, one of his eyes bandaged and blacked out. It is the return of the Redeemer, Miro. They're continuing to sell that eye injury from him getting misted, of course. So it looks like they are trying to tie these two, House of Black opponents together in Miro, with some indirect association, perhaps with Sting and Darby Allin. What do you think of some of the post-match here?
Oh yeah, I love the post-match. I love Miro, man. I just think, I'm not a big fan of Hook, because I think they're always like trying to make him cool. And I think that Miro just comes across as cool. He doesn't, it's not like anybody's like trying for him to be cool or telling him to be cool. And I'm looking forward to whoever Miro is going to feud with in this faction. I think it'll be a sight to see.
I think the House of Black comes out of this whole segment looking incredibly hot. You know,
Right.
now it's not just Malachi leading sort of a couple of, dudes. Like now, because Brody King, I think, has taken a real step up lately, especially with this match.
Yeah.
It feels like there's two really hot guys right now in the thing, and maybe Buddy Matthews and Julia Hart are not far behind with getting a bit of shine themselves. So the feud is, I would say, in very good shape.
I think so.
In the back, we have Tony Schiavone. I think this was Tony. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Tony.
It's hard to keep track, everybody. It's a very fast-moving show. Tony Schiavone is with Cole Carter. And if you're not familiar with that name, well, maybe you recognize the name of Two Dimes. This is Two Dimes, the recently ousted Two Dimes from NXT 2.0 from Tony D'Angelo's group. He comes out here under his real name and real gimmick, I suppose, in Cole Carter. He is interrupted by Ricky Starks because he's about to compete for the FTW championship today after taking part in a few dark matches, actually. So Starks comes in and he mentions Carter sleeping with the fishes the last time that we saw him, of course. Being thrown off the bridge in storyline by Tony D'Angelo.
Right.
But Stark says, tying this in with Shark Week, he's now swimming with the sharks.
I thought that line was the line of the night. I think it served two purposes. You're promoting Shark Week and you are promoting that he's no longer in Whack Ass 2.0, which is a garbage fucking show. I have to say that every time I'm on the air. I hate that show. But I thought that was a great tie-in.
So they're having an FTW match tonight. And, do you have any first impressions on Cole Carter, maybe even before talking about his in-ring? What do you think about his look?
I think he looks like real plain. I think they're still like if he's going to be signed to AEW, they have to find a personality for him. And I think that, this introduction match with Starks is a good first outing. I think he, as far as I don't expect him to have a personality on his first real day of work. This is being his first Dynamite match.
My notes, I feel like, are all over the place. Our next segment, I think I might have put this in a different order, unfortunately. So wait, so tell me what was the next segment here? What do we have here?
So
was it FTR?
I have the Wild Thing, but it was Moxley.
Okay. Apologies, everybody. I again, this is a very fast-moving show, so my notes are unfortunately all over the place here. But we got Wheeler Yuta and Jon Moxley versus the Best Friends up next. Yuta is going up against his former teammates in the Best Friends, of course. Orange Cassidy is on commentary, and of course he doesn't say much, but what he does say is kind of funny. Regal is also on commentary, so he does the bulk of the talking for the two of them. Yuta tags in. He calls out his early mentor, Chuck Taylor, and they share some time in the ring, with Chuck almost looking a little bit reluctant to have this fight, with what he looks as still as a bit of a friend. Regal explains the reasons why Yuta chose them over the Best Friends. And there's this big slap, presumably from Yuta to Trent, but we don't see it because of the cameras missing it, unfortunately. But it leads to a very heated exchange between Trent and Yuta. Trent, of course, in storyline, does not have that same relationship with Yuta. In fact, he claims that he never liked him. So Trent is very aggressive with Yuta throughout the match, and it leads to Chuck pulling Trent off of Yuta to tell him to go easy on him. Right. Yuta responds in the heated moment by decking Chuck. And now Chuck is fully into the fight. He has no reason to protect Yuta anymore. And during commercial, the Best Friends double team Yuta. And you can't hear them, but this crowd is absolutely going crazy for the Mox hot tag. And Yuta is just getting beaten up on. Hot tag to Mox, and he unloads on both Trent and Chuck, sending Taylor to the ringside table. Later, Chuck is back in. He hits the awful waffle to Mox, leaving Yuta alone to take two pile drivers from the Best Friends. But Yuta kicks out at 2. Yuta mounts a comeback, eats Trent's crunchy. But Mox comes in to save, and now everybody's down. Yuta locks in a guillotine, but Taylor fights out, and Chuck goes again for the awful waffle. But Yuta reverses with a really nice looking pinning combination, getting the win. And Orange Cassidy, one of the few words he says throughout the broadcast was telling us that Chuck Taylor taught Yuta that particular pin. What do you think of the match, Chris?
I thought it was a fine match. It's one of those matches, you know who's gonna win it. I think it was just something to get Mox and Euler and the best friends on TV. I had no problem with it.
I really like this match. You know, maybe it sounds like more than you did, Kris, because I think we've seen this entire roster when it comes to technical wrestling, when it comes to, you know, good brawling or high flying, like 90% of this roster has it. To me, it's the storytelling that takes these matches to a different level. And this match almost felt like it was the resolution to that Yuta best friend storyline that I don't necessarily feel like we fully explored. I love the various dynamics here between the three men, but I mean, if you want to include Mox in there, that's fine too. Yuta is the guy who, you know, has broken up and he's moved on. Chuck is the guy who knows he shouldn't like this kid, but still holds feelings for Yuta. Trent just sees betrayal and he's just willing to, like, you know, like go in. And Mox is just the guy who wants to fight. And I thought everybody played their dynamics together really beautifully. And, you know, for Chuck Taylor, like, it felt like the most significant thing I've seen him do in AEW in quite some time. Great outing for Trent, who looked really aggressive, and another really great story building opportunity for Yuta, who, you know, unfortunately, this did nothing to build to that match with Garcia happening this Saturday. But it was still a very good match for him.
Right. You mentioned like all the different motivations in this match. Well, I'll probably watch it again. I didn't hate the match. I thought it was good. It just wasn't like, you know, it was fine. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. I need to choose my words carefully because the AEW fans on Twitter will come for me. So, but I did like the match. I'm gonna flip my lights on real quick. Give me
please. Yeah, you go ahead.
Like, I'm not going anywhere. The Alexa didn't.
You're not gonna House of Black us and spit mist into my eyes, are you?
Yeah, right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we're good now.
So we get a little video for Gresham versus Cassanoli, and that's about as much build as we get for that ROH title shot. Let me just kind of take this opportunity to say, like, you know, let me ask you, Kris, what did you think about maybe the integration, or at least what sort of build we had for ROH Death Before Dishonor on the show, and what is your personal level of interest in it?
I'm interested in it, but I like ROH and I like AEW, so I don't think the build to this was good at all. ROH really needs its own like destination show. Because right now it just kind of feels like they're interloping on AEW television, even with like Caprice Coleman coming out every week. It just doesn't feel like a real thing yet, you know? And I understand because I heard Tony Khan say in a press conference that he bought ROH on a whim because it was up for sale. And he just bought it immediately and didn't really have any plans for it. And I understand that because, you know, if I had the money, I would have bought ROH myself. But I do think we're past the point of its novelty, and it needs to be like, where can I watch ROH every week? Because this is kind of a little grating for me.
Yeah, nothing like those, you know, on a whim types of spur of the moment $20 to $40 million spends, eh?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wish I had that kind of money, man.
So, you know, I think it's really telling perhaps how much or how little I should say ROH build we actually had for this. If you're going to do any of it, it would have been on the Go Home show. And we had elements of it, but especially in the FTR segment, we'll go on to talk about, and maybe ultimately that's what's most important because that seems to be your biggest main event. But this hardly felt like a go home show for a pay-per-view that's coming up. And
not at all.
You know, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder about what sort of like relationship Tony Khan and Warner have with Ring of Honor. Like, does he have to clear how much, you know, he's able to promote this side project of his when he's, you know, supposed to be really just pushing AEW on this show? All I could say is the countdown special that they released this week on their YouTube is tremendous. Okay.
Right.
And maybe part of it is because we've had so little of it on the actual TV itself that so much of the storytelling feels completely fresh and worth watching on this countdown show. Or it's the fact that when you really look into it, a lot of these guys have very deep histories with the Ring of Honor brand, and they have all that footage to use to tell those stories. That includes Jonathan Gresham, of course. That includes Claudio Castagnoli. You would never know it, but one of the themes of his match going into Saturday with Gresham is that something like, what is it, 2007, 15 years ago, at Death Before Dishonor, he failed in an ROH title opportunity against Takeshi Morishima. And this is almost his redemption, or at least his attempt to regain recover from that loss. The footage that they had for Samoa Joe versus Jay Lethal told a much deeper story than you would be led to believe just by watching this show with all that Satnam Singh bullshit. And it's a show I highly recommend people go and check out if they intend on watching ROH on Saturday. And it's just a shame we didn't get that anything close to that level of storytelling in this build on the AEW TV itself.
Right. Yeah, I think so too, because I watched it also, and like you said, it gave you way more than we got on television. I'm struggling to understand why there isn't an AEW presence on HBO Max. It seems like it would be a natural fit, just like how WWE has its own section on Peacock out here. It just seems like something that should happen, and again, ROH, I mean, you got to start doing something with this, because it really doesn't, nothing feels important on television. Now, like you said, that the countdown special I thought was tremendous, but I just, like, when you watch AEW programming, it doesn't seem like this is something you're supposed to go out of your way to watch.
Yeah, well, all those extra things, like, I'm sure this is part of the test, maybe the pilot program, to be able to show a potential broadcaster, hey, look, without TV, we're able to accomplish this much. Would you be interested in airing us? Maybe there's part of that too.
Right.
I mean, we can only speculate about maybe what the rules are, if there are any, about like how much ROH Tony's able to promote on his TV. But I found it kind of interesting, at least to discuss and to guess off of this show. Back to Dynamite here. We have Swerve in Our Glory. This is their tag team championship celebration. The crowd is chanting, "You deserve it." Swerve introduces us to his friend, best-selling rapper Kevin Gates, who is here to join in on the celebration. One of several rappers appearing on this edition of Dynamite. Any thoughts on Kevin Gates' appearance here?
I thought it was cool, man. Kevin Gates he does have a new album out. I only heard one song on it, so I'm gonna listen to more of it. I think Kevin Gates is fine. He was hanging with the Young Money crew, right? Like Lil Wayne and those guys. I think.
You tell me, Chris, because I'm out of the loop completely.
Okay, so you don't have a favorite Kevin Gates song?
I do not. No.
Okay.
I will agree that he looks a little like young MA, because that is what Mark Sterling accuses as he interrupts the celebration with Tony Nese. He presents the petition against Swerve Strickland. He wants Kevin Gates' signature on it, and he says that he almost got excited earlier in the back because he thought it was young MA instead of Kevin Gates. Gates refuses to sign. Sterling says, like Swerve, you're untrustworthy and your music sucks. Gates crosses the barricade and is met by Tony Nese. You get a bit of a stare down before Gates delivers a right hand, knocking Tony Nese to the ground. Swerve then follows up by throwing the cake into Sterling's face. And this is the end of the segment. A bit of a celebrity integration here on AEW Dynamite. Your thoughts on how this came across for Swerve in Our Glory?
I thought it was fine. I thought they made Swerve, because last year I really did think that six-way tag match was or I don't even know, it was like 3-team tag team match or whatever. I thought it was a match of the year candidate. I really did enjoy that match. This week they made them feel important. Kevin Gates is a rapper that people know. I think he's out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I'm pretty sure he was with the Young Money crew. And I like a couple of his songs. I like Pop Stars, and there's another song that he has. Can't think of it at the moment. But I think this is a good celebrity integration. I don't think Eric Nese is somebody.
Tony Nese.
Why'd I say Eric Nese? I'm thinking of MTV back in the day. But I don't think Tony Nese is somebody that's at the top of the priority list at the moment. He can afford to get punched by a rapper. They didn't do a silly ass rap battle or anything. They didn't embarrass.
That's on Friday,
right? But they're doing but it's between the wrestlers though.
Okay,
like,
so
do you remember on? I think it was Raw or SmackDown when what's his name, Flow Rider and the Bo Dallas, I think it was, had a
dude, I don't remember what happened on Monday, so I'll take your word for it that occurred. Flow Rider and the B team. Okay, I just Googled Eric Nese just out of curiosity, and
the grind.
It turns out, Chris, you named Tony Nese's infant son, or at least at this point would be 2.5, because that is the name of his child. So Eric Nese, you're not that far off. You're about one generation off from Eric and Tony there. Okay, so that is Swerve in Our Glory. Yeah, I thought this came across pretty well for them. Made them feel like a big deal, and it made them feel like like they had a presence outside of the professional wrestling world. In the back, we are met with Silver and Reynolds. They are with Butcher and the Blade. They want to present Butcher and the Blade with t-shirts. They give Butcher a Butch shirt, and they, for some reason, give Blade also a Butch shirt. And they're having none of this because Butcher and Blade just attack them. Hangman Page comes in for the save, and Excalibur almost seems to let on that Reynolds may be injured in some sort of significant way coming off of this. So we might, at least the indication to me was that we might see Page fill in for Reynolds here against Butcher and the Blade. We'll see.
We'll see.
Christian and Luchasaurus are out next to take on the Varsity Blondes. I don't know. I don't remember the last time Christian wrestled. So when this was announced, it was, of course, a bit significant, and maybe it had some people feeling a little bit skeptical as well, because Christian starts the match, but quickly tags out before we see any activity. Luchasaurus ends up pretty much having a 2-on-1 handicap match, beating up both Varsity Blondes. Christian merely tags in to take the pinfall victory. But after the match, a returning Jungle Boy shows up, walking slowly to the ring with a chair. He has a face-to-face stare down with Luchasaurus before Luchasaurus steps aside and turns around, showing some form of reunion between the two as Jungle Boy chases after Christian throughout the arena and out of the arena. I have enjoyed Christian on some level. Controversial as he may be, I think his promos have been well delivered, and the intent is to get people to talk. He has greatly achieved it. I've not been so hot on this, whatever's been going on with Luchasaurus. And I don't know, Chris, did you see today as a resolution to him? Was this a face turn, or is this just another setup for another swerve?
No, it seems like it's a setup for another swerve. I don't understand it. They haven't made it make sense to me yet. I am hopeful that they'll do something. I thought that I know that Jungle Boy isn't like a A-lister in AEW, but I think he's important enough to where his return should have at least been promoted. It just felt like they could have treated it like a bigger deal than it was, and it just felt like a throwaway thing on a show that was already packed.
Yeah, certainly. By the end of it, I'm really not thinking so much about this Jungle Boy thing. But I think for me, it partly at least has to do with like how vague they've been with this entire Luchasaurus thing, or at least maybe how
Yeah.
poorly they've been communicating this whole Luchasaurus deal. So from what I am trying to gather, Luchasaurus, wanted to know why Christian attacked such a Jungle Boy. And then for some reason, he decides to join Christian Cage, presumably because of something having to do with Marco's stunt. So it almost seemed like there was some form of blackmail involved. Christian was about to reveal the answer, but didn't that week.
Right.
And he's been seemingly just kind of, wrapped around Christian's finger this whole time until this week where he seems to have sided with Jungle Boy. So, I guess there is a story there, but I don't know how interested I am in it just yet,
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there is a story there, and I don't know the story that they're telling, but I do think AEW has the ability to kind of make it make sense. That's one thing that I do like about this company is sometimes things don't make sense in the beginning, but
not always though, Kris. There's a guy with a torn pec right now who seemed to set up a lot of stories that really kind of went into no directions.
Well, he was planning on jumping ship. That's the he was setting up his exit. Probably that's probably why he had no direction with his promos.
Setting up his stories for 5 years later when he makes his return.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
We hear from the Gun Club, who have cut the Acclaimed out of their lives. Austin Gunn challenges Max Caster to a rap battle on Rampage, so look out for that. Jim Ross comes in as we get our. Is this where FTR show up, or is this the FTW title? I'm sorry, my notes are all
okay. So the next match is Cole Carter versus Starks.
Thank you.
Can I say something real quick about the Gun Club and the Acclaim?
Yeah, of course.
I really do think they should have been left a faction. Neither team is winning the tag titles anytime soon. I just don't. I don't see where this doesn't. I think these guys, at least the Gun Club, the Scissor Me Daddy stuff was, at least it was something. And now it just seems like they're going to go back to both teams just being just kind of there. So that's all I want to say about that. And then it was Jim Ross and Cole, and then Cole Carter versus Starks.
So we got for the FTW title, Cole Carter, the former Two Dimes, taking on Ricky Starks. The crowd is chanting Ricky. Carter storms with some really fast offense, sending Starks to the floor before the break, where Starks is complaining that he needs a break. And of course, we go to commercial right there. Back from break, Carter misses a 450 and then eats a spear as Ricky wins the match. I'm sorry, my notes weren't a bit more filled out, but I did think this was a decent debut for Carter, who was booked to look like he was almost, an unexpected challenge for Ricky Starks, who almost was taken by surprise. What did you think of the match?
Yeah, I think Carter was booked to feel like he matters. And I thought for a first outing, it was perfectly fine. I actually, because I don't care about the FTW title. I didn't care about it in the ECW days. I don't care about it now. But I do appreciate Jim Ross selling that title. I thought he tried his best to make it important. I'm one of those people. I know the internet is split on Jim Ross. I actually like Jim Ross as a commentator because I think even when he reminds me of like some of my favorite old commentators that used to F up all the time, a commentator like from like baseball and basketball. Like they're like if you like watch like Marv Albert these days, he's not the sharpest guy on the planet, but this is, in the sports that I watch, there's always at least one old ass commentator that flubs words a lot and says off the wall stuff. So that's why I like Jim Ross. But I thought Cole Carter, I don't think he was going anywhere as Two Dimes. I think he has at least a fighting chance in AEW, and he may or may not be successful.
Is there room for a Cole Carter right now in an AEW? you know.
I think you kind of in this wrestling landscape, you kind of have to make room for yourself. You know, I think that, you know, when when ROH gets a show, there's gonna be something for the people that are able to stick around. So I don't like room for him. I don't know if that's necessarily like a fair question, but it is a fair question in the sense
but he gets a shot is what you're saying.
Yeah, he's at least getting something, man. Because I didn't think that I don't like the stuff with that clique in NXT anyway, just the Italian stereotypes and all that. I thought it's dumb and stupid and dated. At least here we can see what happens.
Ricky Starks grabs the mic. He says he's just getting started tonight, so he's ready for another open challenge. Taz can't believe what he's hearing on commentary, but out comes Danhausen to accept. Starks clarifies he doesn't mean right now, and the crowd boos. Tease up the match, and we get it next week here. So, you know, I'm loving Starks getting some momentum here.
Yeah, with
these open challenges, I love that they're actually putting some focus on this FTW title to just remind people that it even exists. It's a nice little way to build up a match next week between Starks and Danhausen. We have Willow Nightingale, Athena, and Kris Statlander being interviewed. Layla Gray is not going to be here for their 6-woman tag against the Baddies tonight. So Stokely Hathaway has somehow negotiated something to ban Kris Statlander from being ringside. And in all of this, there's, you know, continues to be some slight dissent teased here between Statlander and Athena, with both of them wanting to go for the TNT Championship. So there we go. Okay, this is when we have our FTR interview here. A huge reaction for FTR. Dax talks up their war with the Briscoes, calls it their biggest fight of 2022. He respects the Briscoes for what they've done over the past 20 years, but they're going to have to take these titles from their cold, dead hands. Man, I keep getting those two mixed up. I mean, Cash for the first one.
Dax is the bald one, right?
Dax is the bald one, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, after Dash and Dawson, I think was already tough enough, but I still have a hell of a time like trying to remember Cash from Dax. But Dax Harwood talks about the story of a little girl who was born with an irregular heartbeat, or at least at some point was a 5-year-old diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat, and it was later discovered that she had a hole in the bottom of her heart. It was a condition where the doctor told her if she worked really hard, she might not need open heart surgery to fix it. So 3 years later, the little girl works really hard, and the hole has closed up on its own. And he reveals that 8-year-old little girl is his daughter. Gets a huge reaction from the audience. And Dax says, if that little girl is willing to work that hard for something that's not promised to her, he has no excuse to not do the same. And proceeds to close out this promo against the Briscoes on Saturday night, where he says, I'm going to fight like an 8-year-old girl. What did you think about this promo?
I thought it was excellent. This is a tasteful way to do real life stories and incorporate them into the wrestling show. Because I'm not a big fan of this. Like the Christian, he's good at delivery and he's good at playing that smarmy asshole thing. But this is like kind of a touching story, especially if you've had somebody in your family that has gone through something similar, or if you yourself are going through something similar. It's a very inspirational story, and I just love the delivery of this from Dax. You know, I love FTR, man. I think they are the best tag team in wrestling right now.
Completely agreed. And I mean, on that note, my nephew went through this exact same thing,
right?
And I wanted to use this time to again shout out the Children's Heart Surgery Fund, which is the charity that Benno and Martin were trying to raise funds for. They did a tremendous job going 150, like something like 1,500 pounds they raised for that particular charity. I believe the donation page might still be open, so follow at Bushby01 for a bit more about that. But as if, you know, anybody needed more reason to love FTR. You know, like Dax pretty much like delivers the most personal promo of his entire career, and did it here, you know, without I think a lot of time and in a very short amount of words, and just
Yeah.
what a rallying cry. And when we head to Saturday, it really looks like they are going to be the main event. So we're talking about FTR main eventing a pay-per-view all on their own here.
And they should be the main event.
Absolutely. You know, one of the
And
hottest
I like the line I have in my notes over here. That's why I keep looking off to the side. He said, "I'm gonna fight like a 8-year-old girl this Saturday." I really thought this is one of the best promos that I've heard this year.
It really was tremendous, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, up until this point, we have not seen the Briscoes at all on this show, including their little kind of interview segment where they agreed to the 2 out of 3 falls stipulation that was aired exclusively on YouTube. So, I mean, you know, you can continue to ask, like, is this part of that reported edict from somebody at Warner of not wanting the Briscoes on their TV? Doesn't seem to be preventing them from mentioning the Briscoes and mentioning this main event, nor from Tony Khan, you know, potentially putting the Briscoes up on that pedestal by putting them in this main event. So,
yeah,
I mean,
if you're a corporation, I understand just Warner Brothers Discovery not wanting that team on television just yet. I don't know how much they've atoned, because it wasn't like, I think I can easily forgive like a racial slur, or even something like a homophobic slur. But that Briscoe did was he kind of talked about his feelings in that rant, and that's just not as easy. That's why I have such a hard time taking Hulk Hogan seriously. It wasn't like he just said the N-word once or twice and moved on. He really went like knee deep in the woods with his feelings, you know. So I want the Briscoes to have success. I'm hope that, you know, they're sorry about that rant, and you know, hopefully, you know, they do what they need to do to atone for it, because I definitely think that's still biting them in the ass.
You know, one of the unfortunate things about, I think, our communication system is, and one of the terrible things that reminds us all that we should be careful with our words is that apologies get far less press than the initial incident that you might, you know, be in hot water for. And when it comes to the Briscoes, like we've had Ian Riccaboni on our show, and I believe Ian Riccaboni is you know, has a sort of a background in, like, you know, sex education, is you know, very outspoken about being an ally. He's spoken about the Briscoes, asking questions about, you know, various terms and various sort of, like, you know, things that are maybe just out of curiosity, and also for wanting to get an education on perhaps things that they were not as aware of in the past. And I just think that they're in this situation, like, if somebody like Riccaboni is willing to vouch for them, I'm willing to accept his take. But you know, things like that aren't going to be as publicized as maybe, you know, when you just Google like the Briscoes and what comes up. So no matter what it is, like, it continues to be a discussion whenever you bring the Briscoes up about their past. And I wonder if Tony Khan is deciding to go further with them as part of, like, the Ring of Honor project, if some more public resolution needs to be presented that way.
Yeah. I'm because I one of my jobs is I work with people. I work with youth in jail, and I work with older people in jail. And I'm a firm believer that everybody deserves a second chance. And, you know, until, you know, especially for something like this, because, you know, that stuff comes from, you know, years like that, homophobia and racism and bullshit like that. It comes from like years of brainwash, and that can be unwashed from people. I've seen it with my own eyes. And like you said, the apology isn't getting as much story as the offense. So we'll see. We'll see. I think they'll be fine ultimately if Riccaboni is vouching for them. You know, I don't. I'm just me personally. I don't mind forgiving people, especially if they don't mess up like that again. That's just me.
So that, you know, seems to be the most we really had for Ring of Honor. And we'll see if we get a bit more push for that on Rampage. Or actually, I take my words back, because here we have Sanjay Dutt and Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh. They're in the back being interviewed and commenting about how and why Samoa Joe is not there and has not been seen really for several weeks now, if not months. Christopher Daniels, who seems to be a bit of a surrogate for Samoa Joe in this feud, he comes in and says that Joe isn't going to waste his breath on these three. He challenges Jay Lethal to a match on Friday. So again, coming off of watching the countdown to this sucks. This build on TV for this entire program has been awful. I mean, I think like Sanjay is a good performer, but I think he's way too over the top, you know, for the tone of story. And for that matter, maybe like on some level, like Jay Lethal might be a little too over the top for, I think, the type of realism that fans expect from an ROH program. If you watch the countdown, like it's steeped in the history between these two about how, you know, Lethal was a part of Special K going nowhere, and Christopher Samoa Joe then, like, you know, ROH champion, plucks him from obscurity and just kind of mentors him all the way until Lethal won the pure title, which Joe took from him, and that just began these decades of worth of resentment between the two. You got none of that. If you watched Rampage and Dynamite, you would have just thought it was some sort of stupid thing with like this Satnam Singh attacking out of nowhere, and Sanjay Dutt screaming. So kind of disappointed by all of this. We have Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan. They're coming out with Stokely Hathaway and Jermaine Dupri. Okay, somebody I did not expect to see on professional wrestling TV.
You have to have a favorite Jermaine Dupri track.
Well, listen, are we talking about like production? Or are we talking about like
we could talk production or rap, whichever one?
I mean, listen, he's a legend. You know, you look at Chris Cross, you look at
I
don't know, Usher, like every Usher hit basically. Didn't he do like The Boy Is Mine?
Yeah, I think he did do that one too. He did The Boy Is, because he works real closely with Monica. My favorite Jermaine Dupri track that he raps on is Money Ain't a Thing with Jay-Z. I like that whole Atlanta crew. I just seeing him on TV with Stokely Hathaway and the Baddies just brought a smile to my face for some reason. I thought it was awesome.
It brought a smile to my face, and I wish it brought a smile to Jermaine Dupri's face, because the man looked completely expressionless. Like, I don't know if he must be a wrestling fan, I have to imagine, or at least I don't know.
Yeah, so anytime I've seen Jermaine Dupri on other things, like there's this episode of a Different World from like 92 or something like that, where Chris Cross is on there, and then Jermaine Dupri is at the end of that, comes on at the end of that episode, and he has that same exact expressionless face that he has. If you watch the Janet Jackson documentary, Janet Jackson is one of my all-time faves. And he's in that.
He dated
her, yeah.
Jeez, wow.
He dated her and cheated on her or whatever. But he even when he was describing that, he's an expressionless guy. You know, I don't think he was necessarily bored to be there, but his face and his voice doesn't tell a lot of stories. You know, like P. Diddy, you always know when he's like angry and happy and all that stuff. Jermaine Dupri is a little bit harder to read, in my opinion.
He really should have come out with Orange Cassidy, I think, you know, doing the same gimmick.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
So we have Athena and Willow Nightingale taking on Jade, Cargill, and Kiera Hogan with Jermaine Dupri sitting ringside here. Jade largely stays out of the ring and allows Hogan to take turns with both baby faces. Willow Nightingale attacks Jade off the apron with the cannonball, followed by Athena with a plancha as we go to commercial break. Coming back, Jade stands toe-to-toe with Athena, and we get a good little striking sequence between the two. Jade catches Athena's crossbody and lands a fallaway slam. She showboats with the big kip up, but Athena does the same in the background with her own. Good chemistry, I thought, between the two. Right. Stokely distracts Athena and allows Jade to take her out for the rest of the match. Jade is then left alone with Willow as she hits like a John Cena proto bomb for a near fall, followed by Jaded for the victory. What did you think of the match, Kris?
I thought it was a decent match. I thought for the first week that Willow Nightingale felt important and necessary to the women's division. I think this episode, the women didn't appear on TV until 6:13 p.m. my time. So I guess it would have been 9:13 p.m. your time. Mm-hmm. So I did have to point that out. They still have a ways to go with the women. Hopefully, I hope they sign Naomi, Sasha, and Paige, because I think this women's division really needs a jolt of star power. I thought that this match, though, was fine. And I like that the other women in the match got showcased. And And Athena, I think this was kind of one of her biggest showcases too, because she looked like she had Jade on the ropes, like she had never been on the ropes before. So, we'll see where this, and Jade, she feels like the most important champion in the company too, as far as the women are concerned.
Yeah, in comparison to Thunder Rosa, you could make that argument, that they're a very close 1 and 2 in terms of like star power and presence. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I think Athena has been so important to the work rate, I would say, of this company, right. And in particular to like this Baddies group, because you're talking about 3 relatively inexperienced and green wrestlers, and they need competitors that are veterans like an Athena in order to make their shit look good. And I thought Athena made Jade look fantastic here. They have very good chemistry, and I look forward to that singles match. Willow Nightingale is a star. Okay. Yes. Like it's one of those things that you can't necessarily explain, but she has whatever factor that people look for when it comes to attractive, like baby faces that people just gravitate towards. And she's got that. I hope to see her, as a more constant throughout this feud, if not this, entire division. I think Kiera Hogan, like she's in a decent role right now, but man, like anytime I see her in the ring, I think she's falling below the standard, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree too. I think, and it's crazy because I didn't really think that when she was in Impact, but I just don't think she's hit her rhythm in AEW yet, and I hope that changes soon.
In the back, we go to Thunderstorm. Thunderstorm, Thunder Rosa, and Toni Storm. This is where Thunder Rosa cuts a promo on Yamashita, delivering some lines in Japanese. Their match is made official for Fight for the Fallen next week on Dynamite. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter come in too, and they are here to announce that they're also going to be on the show on Friday, I should say. So this is our big Excalibur rundown here, and I'm not even going to attempt to do it in the same pace. I will be taking my time because Friday on Rampage, the Fyter Fest Week 2, Night 2, Butcher and the Blade take on Alex Reynolds and John Silver, Lee Moriarty versus Dante Martin. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter are in action. We got the rap battle between Max Caster and Austin Gunn, and we have Jay Lethal versus Christopher Daniels. Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor on Saturday. Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia for the Pure title. We have Mercedes Martinez versus Serena Deeb for the ROH Women's title. FTR versus the Briscoes in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the Tag Team Championship. Willow Nightingale versus Allison Kay, just added here to the 0 Hour, which is essentially their version of the buy-in. We have Samoa Joe versus Jay Lethal for the TV Championship. And then also announced here, the Righteous taking on Dalton Castle and the Boys for the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team titles, which I had no idea were still active. Next week, we have Thunder Rosa versus Miyu Yamashita for the AEW Women's Championship, Ricky Starks versus Danhausen for the FTW Championship, with more matches to be announced for Death Before Dishonor and Fight for the Fallen next week. That is 13 matches across 3 shows that Excalibur had to get through here, followed by some plug for some Dragon thing on TBS. So,
yeah, it was Game of Thrones, Dragon something. I'll watch it eventually.
Okay, all right. Even like, you know, like it was really funny seeing JR just be like, wow, like, you know, at the end here. It's all up. Our main event, everybody, it is the Shark Cage barbed wire everywhere shark infested match with Eddie Kingston versus the Painmaker Chris Jericho. Ruby Soho is ringside and has the keys to the Shark Cage, which is suspended above the arena containing members of the Jericho Appreciation Society, except Sammy Guevara, we should state. Kingston comes out with a barbed wire wrapped microphone, and he uses it to smash Jericho in the head, immediately cutting him open before yelling into the microphone, "Is this on? You're gonna bleed. Shark Week." So his way of adding some not so subtly forced integration into Shark Week. I wonder. Yeah, Discovery must have been happy about this.
Yes.
Crowd is in a frenzy. Jericho is already bleeding, and Kingston is biting Jericho's forehead all around the ring. There's barbed wire laced around the ropes and on top of tables and chairs inside the ring. Kingston is Irish whipping Jericho into the barbed wire as Jericho Appreciation Society looks from the cage. Kingston hits Jericho with a barbed wire chair. Jericho comes back with a top rope Rana to Kingston onto a barbed wire table. After the commercial break, both men are very bloody. Both men are stuck in barbed wire. Kingston suplexes Jericho off the apron through another barbed wire table. Both guys taking a lot of punishment here, but out comes Ty Conti of the Jericho Appreciation Society. She attacks Ruby Soho ringside, and Soho, kind of takes charge, but then out comes Anna Jay, Conti's former friend, to save Soho. After a bit of discussion, Anna Jay turns heel here, attacking Ruby Soho, reuniting with Ty Conti. This certainly felt like it kind of came out of nowhere and probably means that Anna Jay's out of the Dark Order. Would you say, Chris?
Yeah, probably. I was a little confused by this, but I don't think the Dark Order is the same faction that it used to be anyway. So, it's fine.
So Anna Jay seemingly has linked back up with Ty Conti. Is she a member of the Jericho Appreciation Society? Who knows at this point? Mm-hmm. So they have control of the shark cage lowering device. So Jay lowers the shark cage. Conti is struggling with the keys to open the cage, but it's kind of pointless because Garcia and a bunch of the other members are just able to squeeze through the bars anyway. And they come to Chris Jericho's rescue, attacking Eddie Kingston. Out comes Ortiz with a Mad Ball and the Blackpool Combat Club. The Mad Ball is hit to Jericho. Exploder suplex from Kingston to Jericho through a barbed wire table as Eddie lifts a barbed wire chair over his head. Jericho counters it with a code breaker, but in the process, kind of drives the chair into his own face. And Jericho at this point almost kind of pauses for a long second just to kind of like reel from the pain here, and when his face appears, like he's sliced up pretty badly here. So Jericho taking a lot of punishment out of this. Jericho is about to line salt the barbed wire chair onto Kingston, but the chair is thrown right into Jericho's knees in midair. Kingston then grabs a barbed wire for his barbed wire stretch plum. Sammy Guevara then comes in to save Jericho. You know what? Sammy must have been. Was he in the shark cage?
No, I didn't see him in the shark cage. No.
Okay, so he just comes in from the back here to save Jericho. Jericho wraps the barbed wire around his arm and hits Kingston with a barbed wire Judas effect. An incredibly violent match here, Chris. What did you think of the main event?
I liked the match. It was fine. The blood and stuff. That wasn't a draw or a turn off for me. It was what it was. I like the J's that Sammy Guevara was wearing. I thought those were some cool shoes. I think this feud needs to end. I am growing tired of it, and it seems like it might continue. I want this to be over. That's just my opinion. Come from me, AEW fans.
I'm kind of surprised you have that opinion, and I mean, I of course I respect your opinion. Do not go after Kris. I think he's well reasoned and has justification. But I've been enjoying almost every chapter of this feud, Kris. You know, the first match was tremendous. It was followed up upon by Anarchy in the Arena, which was also tremendous, and also finally, what was it? Blood and Guts, and this match, which I thought like might have topped the others in terms of violence, at least, you know, on a personal level between Jericho and Kingston. So as a feud ending match that was billed as a barbed wire everywhere match, they more than lived up to those expectations. Man, Jericho, like, this was one of the most violent matches I've seen Chris Jericho in. And
yeah, like he definitely earned his check tonight, just being in that blood. The match I liked. I thought it was fine. It's just like this feud, like except for a few wins for Eddie Kingston, has kind of been a little too one-sided for my liking. And I could be,
Who won the well, they won Blood and Guts, didn't they?
The good guys, the
faces.
Full combo. Yeah, they won Blood and Guts. Every week for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks straight, Eddie Kingston kept walking into ass whippings by the Jericho Appreciation Society. Kingston won the first match one-on-one match between him and Jericho. Is just, and then last week, the Kingston and Ruby Soho walked into a ambush again. And it's just, for me, it's just like you said, the match itself were good. The matches have been good. It's just the feud itself. I'm kind of ready to see something else. That doesn't mean that this was a boring thing, and I know that this feud is for other people, and I appreciate that. It's just I'm kind of like, okay, what's next for these guys, man? I want to see it get mixed up a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder if the Jericho Appreciation Society and this Blackpool Combat Club still have more left. I would certainly say like this is probably the end of like Kingston and Jericho as a personal feud. I certainly don't want to see them top something like this. And after like, you know, really 4 big encounters, I don't know where else you can really go. So we shall see if the rest of this feud continues on a bigger scale. This show ends with a closing sequence where Kingston is supposed to duck an attack from Chris Jericho, and Jericho is supposed to, you know, do that thing where he's supposed to inadvertently hit Sammy. The timing, unfortunately, was totally off here, and this resulted in something very messy between the three of them. It ends with Jericho being sent into a barbed wire spiderweb deal on the outside as Kingston stands tall as we rush to a close on this show, and I scramble to get ready for this stream. Your thoughts overall on this edition of Dynamite, Kris?
Yeah, I do think the sudden stops of these shows are like the second week in a row they did this. It was kind of annoying. I thought overall it was a good show. I think that AEW really, you know, goes out of their way to please the network that they're on, and simultaneously trying to please the fans. Shark Week is always a big week for Discovery Channel, and now that it's Warner Brothers Discovery, I thought the integration of that sponsor was so good. It was because it wasn't like obnoxious. Because I don't know if you've seen like the WWE ones where you got.
I have seen them, yes.
Yeah, where they're like throwing pizza and shit. Like this was like like a subtle thing. It was like in the background, and it actually kind of made me want to watch Shark Week this year, and I never really do, you know. So I think that was accomplished. I'm interested in the ROH pay-per-view, even though I don't think the masses are. I'm interested in it. I was pleased with this show. I was happy to come on here and be positive of a show. Oh, one more thing. Shout out to Stokely Hathaway for bringing up the Cochran firm, because that was one of my first internships when I was in college, was working at the Cochran firm with the late great Johnny Cochran. They got firms all over the place, and I thought that him bringing up that firm for that order of protection or whatever he got, I thought it was just genius. And yeah, there was more on this show that I liked, and I didn't hate anything on this show. The stuff that I didn't like is more of a nitpick, so I'm happy.
I thought this was a really strong show of Dynamite. I mean, you know, as always, fast moving as ever, but maybe if I wasn't taking notes, it wouldn't be a problem for me. Brody King versus Darby Allin was tremendous. I thought Wheeler Yuta and John Moxley versus the Best Friends was also tremendous from a storytelling perspective, which is not always what you get on editions of Dynamite. FTR had one of the best promos, I think, of Dax Harwood's career.
Yes.
And I think a main event that lived up to its very violent billing, that felt like an end of a big program here. So, you know, you can definitely criticize this show for not being a great go-home show for Ring of Honor, but, you know, I've seen enough of this, of AEW TV leading up to this Ring of Honor pay-per-view to not necessarily think that that's their intent even. So this relationship, or at least like how Ring of Honor is going to be built as a sub-brand of AEW's, continues to, you know, somewhat perplex me, because it does not feel like they're at least 100% in on using AEW TV to promote a pay-per-view like they do their typical AEW events. So, you know, it's like they're almost kind of building it at a distance, wanting to give some resources but not everything to it. So that's pretty interesting. Let's go to some of your super chats before we get out of here, and some of your feedback. The first of which comes to us from Jake from the Windy City, who says, the main event was awful. I'm done with Jericho and Eddie. So sharing your opinion of it all, Kris.
Yeah, I didn't say awful, but I feel you. I do want it to move on.
We go to, thank you very much for the support, Jake. We got a Hansi who says, I hope this leads to Hook versus Starks for the FTW title. Interesting. Okay. Hook has been, like, you know, not absent, but like completely kind of separated from a whole lot of other things lately.
Right. Like Hook, I don't understand Hook. I know I'm probably in the minority with this, but again, it just it's too much. Like I don't care about Hook, and I hope the kid has a successful career in AEW, but I just don't care about him right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's really odd that they've just suddenly dropped this Hookhausen deal, and without any sort of explanation. And really without any sort of like significant follow-up program seemingly for Hook. So unless I'm forgetting something that he's currently involved with in AEW, I mean, other than like hitting on Lexi Nair. But I like Hansi's idea of, you know, Starks doing this open challenge and all of a sudden Hook shows up. How is Taz going to react on commentary when that happens? I'd love to see that. So that's
I think that'd be fine too. I think the problem that I'm having with Hook right now is I just don't take him as a serious threat to anybody. Even someone like a Starks, I feel is way above him. That doesn't mean they can't have a match, and Hook couldn't rise to the level of Starks. But I think the way they've been booking him, I don't know what the word for it is. Maybe it's too ironic for me. He just doesn't seem like a threat to anyone on the roster that's like at the level of Ricky Starks and above.
Before we get out of here, we have some feedback from forum.postwrestling.com, where we open our forums threads to all of our patrons at postwrestlingcafe.com. We start off here with Johnny Sanchez, who says, I really like this episode of Dynamite. Great promos from both tag champs and a strong push for the ROH pay-per-view. I mean, maybe it's because I just watched the Countdown show, but I kind of disagree. Maybe for that match, yes, but I don't know about the rest. But anyway, Johnny goes on to say, love the Brody Darby match. Massive fan of Brody King, and I'm glad they continue to push him as a monster. There's a lot of blood in that cage match, but hilarious to see the JAS squeeze through the bars when Ty couldn't open the cage fast enough. I do have 2 complaints. If this was the end of the Kingston Jericho feud, that was a bit lackluster. And if not the end, it's been going one far too long. While I did watch, how could that be? How is this match lackluster? I mean, maybe as a are people complaining that it was too sloppy?
I think people just want to be done with the feud, because I don't think the match was lackluster, but I want to move on from this. This is kind of like if you ever watched like Days of Our Lives or Passions or something like that, the drag out stories for just forever and they don't end. This is kind of my deal with this, Eddie. I'm ready. How long has this been going on now? It's been like 3-4 months.
Yeah, since like 2 pay-per-view cycles, right?
Yeah.
So
it's time for it to be over.
Certainly. He also says, while I did enjoy the Miyu Thunder match, I know some of my friends that didn't and questioned the upcoming title match. Should they have let the match build up maybe more singles matches for Miyu on Dynamite, or maybe they should have advertised the dark match more to get people up to speed? You can make that argument. It's AEW booking is somewhere in between booking for the masses and booking for the people that watch every single independent wrestling show that's out there. And there are some cases, like I suppose in this case, where if you don't know who Miyu Yamashita is, you did not take the time to go on AEW Dark that particular week to watch the match, they're just going to move on. And hope that you just enjoy the match for what it is next week.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I felt about it. I didn't care about the dark backstory. I just kind of enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah. All right, we go up next to Robbie from London, Ontario. I'm gonna have to skip some of these because we just have so many. So Robbie says, even though I was distracted by the current tornado warning while Dynamite was in its first hour, no worries, we just had heavy rain in London, Ontario. I enjoyed the rest of the time. With Danhausen being Ricky's next challenger, do you guys think this is leading to Hook challenging, or is that just wishful thinking? I did not even put that together, Kris.
Yeah, I didn't even put that together either. Hopefully it does, man. Hopefully it leads to something like that. And, I think if Hook and Starks has a good match, that will bring Hook up, because he needs something to elevate him from this jokey status for me, because I don't see anything special like announcer. He's like waiting backstage with an announcer, and she asks him a question, and then he just ignores her and walks away like a dick. That to me is
they're
not
awful.
Somebody I care about.
No, the backstage segments, anything non-wrestling they've done with Hook has been pretty awful, I have to say. So maybe less TV time for him when he's not wrestling, it will ultimately help him. But yeah, I didn't even put that together, Robbie. It would be a perfect way for Hook to have to come and choose between his allegiances to either Danhausen or Ricky Starks next week. So maybe they're intentionally separating them without explanation on purpose, just as a bit of a misdirect. Denise from Georgia says, I was live at Dynamite. Darby is going to need to soak in Epsom salt after his match with Brody. Miro being a face is very intriguing, and I'm here for it. Soon, TK won't be able to delay Jade and Ricky Starks turning face. The crowd loved them. That Kevin Gates young MA joke had me rolling. The only setback was Jericho Kingston. The match was going great until overbooking took over. It can be doable sometimes, but this took the steam out for me. Other than that, this was fun and had a great time. Take care, good people. Okay. So a lot of people actually, at least to me, seemingly more, down on that main event for various reasons here.
Yeah. I think it's just getting old to people. And shout out to her for being in that crowd in Atlanta. Like I said, I love Atlanta. It's one of my favorite cities to go to and visit. And they really represented and made that show feel like an important show. So shout out to them.
Hacksaw Jim Powers from our nation's capital says, this Dynamite seemed to have a bit of everything, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing. Lots of hard-hitting matches, that's a good thing. Warner Music Group recording artist Kevin Gates and former music mogul Jermaine Dupri as active participants, not so good a thing. By the way, if it seems like Jermaine Dupri has been around forever, it's because he has. He discovered Kris Crossover 30 years ago before his 20th birthday. Yes, and the main event was almost too chaotic. It's that same old AEW problem of trying to cram too much into a match or angle that you end up confused and not knowing what parts you're supposed to care about and wind up forgetting about all of it. It happens so often that it actually seems to be a big issue that's keeping the company from taking the next step. Sending my best to the professor and hope your recovery continues to go well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I do have to kick back a little bit with the rappers appearing. I don't think they did any harm. I don't think Eric Nice is a person that's gonna be, or not Eric Nice.
No, he's Eric Nice from now on. He's adopted his son has taken over.
Yeah, Tony Nice is. I don't think he's a guy that is a priority for them right now. So if anybody's gonna be getting punched by Kevin Gates, it should be somebody like him. So I was cool with that. And I thought, and the thing is, I liked about the Jermaine Dupri thing is all he did was be there with Stokely. That was good enough for me. Is just to show that Stokely is an important person and he's friends with people like that. And that, to me, I think if you do anything more with these guys, you're overthinking it. I don't think Jermaine Dupri needed to come out there, say something stupid or do something stupid. Just be out there, sit down, show that Jade has a powerful clique. Jade has got connections, and you did your job.
Last piece of feedback of the night goes to Muggin, who says, where do I start? It's been advertised as the final chapter of the Kingston Jericho saga. It started off well, but man, did this fall off a cliff with the overbooking from the Anna Jay turn to the Sammy assist, and it sucked all the air out of my room. How much juice is left to squeeze out of this story? All out? Now on to what I did like. FTR are thriving as baby faces. Jungle Boy's return is aces. Willow Nightingale is impossible to boo. Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland got to bask in their championship glory. And Blackpool Combat Club are the best faction in the company. I hope Death Before Dishonor cheers me up. Wow. Okay. So, I mean, it seems like Muggin... Yeah, go ahead, Kris.
They hate the Jericho Kingston thing more than I did because I didn't hate it. I'm just over it, but... Yeah, these people don't like that.
Seems like Muggin liked the entire show, but might have been soured by the main event and might need a bit of cheering back up on Saturday. So we will be back here, of course, to talk about AEW on Friday night as we talk about Rampage, the true go-home show, and the end of Fyter Fest. As part of Rewind-A-SmackDown, I will be back with Kate from Montreal, who will also be joining me on Saturday for our Death Before Dishonor post-show. Both of those shows are going to be exclusive for members of the Post Wrestling Cafe, postwrestlingcafe.com. $6 a month gets you access to everything, including MCU Later, including every single edition of Rewind Away that we have ever done, including every Rewind-A-SmackDown every single Friday. This Saturday, it is our Death Before Dishonor post show as well. G1 coverage throughout the entire G1 exclusively for Cafe members. So still a lot of it to come out. And also the wellness policy tomorrow, but Saturday, maybe the main event, Kris, the return of the Nubian Wrestling Advocates.
Yes, man, there's a lot to talk about. I can't wait to talk about this Vince saga a little bit more. Talk about this Titus O'Neil thing. You know, that was a little bit nuts. Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. And thank you for having me on tonight, man. It's good press for the Dr. Ealy brand, so I appreciate it.
He's a man of many talents. We love hearing Kris on the airwaves, and it was a pleasure getting to finally do one of these with you. So where can people follow more of Kris Ealy?
You can follow me on Twitter at KMEasyDoesIt. I've got like over 1,000 followers now, so it's starting to become a little much for me. That wasn't something that I expected at the beginning of the year, so I appreciate the love. You can follow me on Twitter. You can I'm building a website, and then also you can read some of my articles on WrestleNomics. My next one is coming out, I think, at the beginning of August. Yeah, man, it's just been a great ride with Post. I've loved every second of it.
KMEZ does it on Twitter is where you can find him. I am at Way0937. I will be back tomorrow for the Wellness Policy at 3 p.m. Eastern. I'll be tweeting out a link where everybody can join us as we talk about Jordan Goodman's Bummer Summer with myself, Jordan, and Neil Flanagan, who will be joining us as a permanent co-host on the Wellness Policy coming up. So a lot more.
I can't wait to be a guest on that show too.
We would love to have you. Absolutely. So, even tomorrow, if you want to tune in, Kris, but no pressure, of course. You are a very busy man. Cool. At some point, we will be speaking to you. So until then, we will talk to you. Goodbye.